there, my name is Miranda, welcome to another video, and today is my reading wrap-up for the month of November. For the month of November, I managed to read 4 books, one of which was a novella. Until my dissertation's done, I'm essentially probably going to have a list of 3 or 4 for most of the rest of the months. Except for maybe December, I might actually have a chance to read more this month. So my first read for the month of November was The Lost Sisters by Holly Black. This is the novella that she wrote to, I guess, sort of tide us over until The Wicked King finally comes out. So this novella follows Jude's twin sister, Taryn. I really hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And it's essentially a letter she is writing to her sister to explain why she fell in love. I really enjoyed this novella. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. It was a really quick read. I finished it in just one sitting. But it was really nice to get Taryn's side of the story, to see how things happened in The Crow Prince through her eyes. Doesn't mean I necessarily like her any more than I did at the end of Crow Prince, but I think I understand her character a little bit more, and it gave me something to read until Wicked King comes out, because we still have a little while to go. So for anyone who enjoyed The Crow Prince and is desperately waiting for The Wicked King, I would highly recommend reading The Lost Sisters. It is actually a really good little novella, and it gives you more of an insight into Taryn and her actions. The next book I read was To Those Who Never Knew by Isabella Anton. I do not have my copy right now. I have lent it to a friend who wants to read it because this book takes place, for parts of it, at my actual university, and that's not common for us because our university isn't really that big. This book I never would have heard of, except for I had a chance encounter back in September where I ran into the author, and this author was once a student at my university. We went on one of our culture program trips, and she saw us, and she saw our senior support officer who goes with us on all these trips, and she remembered him because she had once been an international student herself here on exchange at the university. So she went up to talk to him, tell him all about what's been going on, ask about his life, and she told him she had published her first ever novel. Even better, she had copies in the trunk of her car, and she gave every single one of us signed and personalized copies. To Those Who Never Knew follows a young woman by the name of Jade. She is a student who comes on exchange to my actual university in modern times. Hey, that makes me happy if I can relate to a character on a level like that, because same, I'm an international student at the exact same university. That makes me happy. While Jade is at the university, however, she ends up being pulled back in time to the medieval period, and she becomes a central figure in the fight for the destruction or continuation of magic. So in the history of the book for Jade's world, magic used to exist, but after its disappearance, all mention of it was erased from history. I really like this concept. I like this idea that the world once had magic, and then once it disappeared, we erased every mention of it because, well, the people who decided to destroy it decided to make sure no one had any idea of its existence whatsoever. I ended up giving this book a 3 out of 5, slightly closer to a 2.5 if I am being honest, but Goodreads doesn't have half-point stars. I did enjoy the concept of this book. I did think it was interesting. I think it would be almost better as like a movie rather than a book in some respects. But there was a lot I just wanted more of in this book. I honestly think she could have had another 100 or so pages just to give me a little bit more descriptor, a little bit more of some events, and just more of the time that's passing. That's just how I felt. There were also a couple little issues here and there I had with the book, little issues with the language, little issues with some of the characters and characterizations. There was a few just little bits and pieces that just sort of nagged at me. But in general, I do think that the concept of this book was very interesting. I just needed more out of it. Maybe also a little bit of fixing of the actual writing style of the book, but not the worst I've read. Sum up, 3 out of 5, enjoyed the concept, needed more, could have been a little bit fixing of the actual writing style. In general, if anyone likes books about someone who gets sent back in time, particularly if they end up being a central figure in how history is going to play out, so much so that people in the present make sure she gets sent to the past, I recommend giving this book a chance. Sequel comes out soon enough. I'm hoping the sequel has that more that I really just needed out of this first book. The third book I read this month, and I know essentially everyone else on BookTube has read this, so I'm a little late to the party, but I finally read The Hate U Give by Angie Thomas. And just like almost everyone has done, I've given it a 5 out of 5 stars. So I read this book while I was in London. I actually finished it just after I saw the movie. There's I'm sorry I tried. But I enjoyed both immensely. So for the, I'm going to assume, very, very few people who have not heard of this book, The Hate U Give follows a young girl by the name of Star. One night Star leaves a house party with a friend of hers who offers to drive her home to get her there safely. They are pulled over by a cop, and then her friend is shot and killed by this same cop. I'll be honest, I don't really know what to say about this book. The most I can think is I honestly really did love this book, and I'm not a big fan, I will say, of contemporary. But the one thing that really got to me this book was just how thought-provoking it was. I loved the way the author handled not just the events in the book, but the characters and the characters' relationships with each other after what happens and how the sequence of events works, and that she doesn't go for an easy ending. Sometimes the best endings you can read are ones that they're nothing but unfair. To summarize, I will say that if this book sounds like something you want to read, please read it. And if reading isn't quite your thing, I will say go see the movie. It's important and it's thought-provoking, and it's something that a lot of us don't always think about. Alright, so the final book I read, and the only one I have my physical copy of right now because I haven't lent it out just yet, but that is Girls of Paper and Fire by Natasha Nagan. I still hope I am saying that correctly. This is the copy that I got in the November Fairy box. I had to read it this month because this was a very highly anticipated release for me, and oh yes, I did love it. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. So this book follows a young girl by the name of Lei, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, but based on how it's described, that everyone smiles after they say her name because of how it's pronounced, I'm hoping I'm correct. So this book follows Lei after she is taken away to become a paper girl, which is a concubine to the Demon King. Every year in her kingdom, 8 girls are chosen to become these paper girls. But this year, she is a 9th girl chosen. So this book follows her while she's in the royal court being trained as a paper girl, her struggles, her fears, and just how much she has to learn and how much strength she develops while a paper girl. And also that she falls in love. And with everything that happens in Lei's life, she then has to decide how far she's willing to go for justice and revenge. So as I said, I gave this book a 5 out of 5. I absolutely adored this book. I remember I couldn't put it down when I was finishing it, and when I got to the very final page, I just sat bolt right up on that cliffhanger. I'm not happy about how long I have to wait for a sequel. I understand how long it takes to write, but I'm so mad at myself I didn't wait to read this so I didn't have to wait so long. The one other thing I will say about this book, and I so appreciate this book for having this, but it has an actual trigger warning because of the sensitive subject matter that is in this book. That is something I appreciated immensely because stuff like that, it makes me extremely emotional, so it meant I was able to prepare myself a little bit. It's not a comfortable subject matter for anyone, but it was realistic in this book. I remember feeling just absolutely heartbroken for so many of the characters in this book. That is why I gave it a 5 out of 5, because it just constantly kept breaking my heart. I think I'm starting to notice a trend. So there you have it. Those are the 4 books I read for the month of November. I'm already mildly hoping I might be able to double that number for December, but we'll see. Probably not. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more videos by me, both bookish and travel related, please be sure to click that subscribe button down below. And I'll see you next time. Bye!